Hello, my name is Guillermo Flores, and today I'm going to be talking about assessing writing. Before we start, I would like to mention that this is taken from Brown 2004, Chapter 9. Here's a small guideline of the topics we're going to be reviewing. There are genres of written language, types of writing performance, micro and macro skills of writing, designing assessment tasks, scoring methods for responsive and extensive writing, assessing initial and later stages of the process of composing. Now, before we start into the topic, I would like to mention that not many centuries ago, writing was a skill that was the exclusive domain of scribes and scholars in educational or religious institutions. Almost everyday aspect of everyday life for common people was carried out orally. Business transactions, records, legal documents, political and military agreements, all were written by specialists whose vocation was to render language into the written word. Today, the ability to write has become an indispensable skill in our global literate community. Writing skill, at least at rudimentary levels, is a necessary condition for achieving employment in many walks of life and is simply taken for granted in literate cultures. In the field of second language teaching, only half a century ago, experts were saying that writing was primarily a convention for recording speech and for enforcing grammatical and lexical features of language. Now we understand the uniqueness of writings as a skill with its own features and conventions. We also fully understand the difficulty of learning to write well in any language, even in our own native language. Every educated child in developed countries learns the rudiments of writing in his or her native language, but very few learn to express themselves clearly with logical, well-developed organization that accomplishes the intended purpose. And yet, we expect second language learners to write coherent essays with artfully chosen rhetorical and discursive devices. Now, before considering assessing the students' writing, we must be clear about our objective or criterion. What is it that we want to test? Is it handwriting ability, correct spelling, writing sentences that are grammatically correct, paragraph construction, or logical development of a main idea? Each objective can be assessed through a variety of tasks. Here are the genres of writing. As you can see, we have academic writing, job-related writing, and personal writing. We might just say that in some of the cases, some of the activities are repeated, like letters and emails in job-related writing and letters and emails in personal writing. As we know, each kind of letters or emails are different. That's why they are repeated in those two sections. Now, the types of writing performance. We have imitative, intensive, control, responsive, and extensive. The imitative relates or is to produce written language. The learner must attain skills in the fundamental basic task of writing letters, words, punctuation, and very brief sentences. This category includes the ability to spell correctly, to perceive phoneme and grapheme correspondences in the English spelling system. It is a level at which learners are trying to master the mechanics of writing. At this stage, form is the primary, if not exclusive focus, while context and meaning are of secondary concern. Intensive control writing. Beyond the fundamentals of imitative writing are skills in producing appropriate vocabulary within a context, allocations and idioms, and are correct grammatical features up to the length of a sentence. Meaning and context are of some importance in determining correctness and appropriateness, but most assessment tasks are more concerned with the focus on form and are rather strictly controlled by the test design. Responsive writing. Here, assessment tasks require learners to perform a limited discourse level, connecting sentences into a paragraph and creating a logically connected sequence of 2 or 3 paragraphs. Tasks respond to pedagogical directives lists of criteria, outlines, and other guidelines. Genres of writing include brief narratives, descriptions, short reports, lab reports, summaries, brief responses to reading and interpretation of charts or graphs. Extensive writing. It implies successful management of all the process and strategies of writing for all purposes up to the length of an essay, a term paper, a major research project report, or even a thesis. Writers focus on achieving a purpose, organizing and developing ideas logically, using details to support and illustrate ideas, demonstrating syntactic and lexical variety, and in many cases, engaging in the process of multiple drafts to achieving a final product. Micro and macro skills of writing. Micro skills. Here, the writers produce graphemes and orthographic patterns of English. They produce writing at an efficient rate of speed to suit the purpose. They also produce an acceptable core of words and use appropriate word order patterns. They use acceptable grammatical systems, for example, tense agreement, pluralization, and patterns and rules. They also express a particular meaning in different grammatical forms, and they use cohesive devices in written discourse. In the macro skills, they use rhetorical forms and conventions of written discourse. They appropriately accomplish the communicative functions of written text according to form and purpose. They convey links and connections between events and communicate such relations as main idea, supporting idea, new information, given information, generalization, and exemplification. They also distinguish between literal and implied meanings when writing. They correctly convey culturally specific references in the context of written text. And finally, they develop and use a variety of writing strategies, such as accurately assessing the audience's interpretation using pre-writing devices, writing with fluency in the first drafts, using paraphrases and synonyms, soliciting peer and instructor feedback, and using feedback for revising and editing. Design and assessment task, imitative writing. Here we have copying, listening close selection task, picture cue task, form completion task, and converting numbers and abbreviations to words. Copying. This is an example. Here's what a test taker may read. Copy the following words in spaces given. Right here, they just copied, but they're not evaluating spelling. Remember, we are concentrating on form. Then we have listening close selection task. Test takers may here write the missing word in each blank. Below the story is a list of words to choose from. Have you ever visited San Francisco? It is a very nice city. It is cool in the summer and warm in the winter. I like the cable cars and bridges. Here, the student will have to choose the words and place them in the correct order. Remember, we are focusing on form here. Picture cue task. Familiar pictures are displayed and test takers are told to write the word that the picture represents, assuming no ambiguity in identifying the picture, like cat, hat, chair, table, etc. No reliance is made on oral comprehension for successful completion of the task. Form completion task. Abbreviation of pictures is the use of a simple format, registration, application, etc., that asks for a name, addresses, phone numbers, and other data, assuming, of course, that the prior classroom instruction has focused on filling such forms. This task becomes an appropriate assessment of simple tasks such as writing one's name and address. These are formats. Finally, we find converting numbers and abbreviations to words. This is what test takers may hear, filling the blanks with words and the test takers see. Still in imitative writing, we find spelling tasks and detecting phoneme grapheme correspondences. Here we find spelling test, picture cue task, multiple choice techniques, and matching phonetic symbols. Spelling test. In a traditional old-fashioned spelling test, the teacher dictates a simple list of words, one word at a time, followed by the word in a sentence, repeated again, with a pause for test takers to write the word. Scoring emphasizes correct spelling. You can help to control listening errors by choosing words that students have encountered before, words that they have spoken or heard in class. Picture cue task. Pictures are displayed with the objective of focusing on familiar words whose spelling may be unpredictable. Items are chosen according to the objectives of the assessment, but this format is an opportunity to present some challenging words and word pairs. For example, boot, book, read, bit, bite, etc. Multiple choice techniques. The test takers may read. Choose the word in the correct spelling to fit the sentence. Then write the word in the space provided. For example, he washed his hands with option A, option B, option C, or option D. Remember, here we are recognizing graphemes. We're concentrating on form. Finally, we have matching phonetic symbols. In this type of task, test takers may read. In each of the following words, a letter or combination of letters has been written in a phonetic symbol. Write the word using the regular alphabet. As you notice here, for the example, the answers are on the right. Designing assessment task. Now we're in intensive control writing. In this next level of writing is what second language teacher training manuals have for decades called control writing. It is also known as form-focused writing, grammar writing, or guided writing. Here, a good deal of writing at this level is display writing as opposed to real writing. Students produce language to display their competence in grammar, vocabulary, or sentence formation, and not necessarily to convey meaning for any authentic purpose. The traditional grammar vocabulary test has plenty of display writing in it, since the response made demonstrates only the test taker's ability to combine or use words correctly. No new information is passed on from one person to another. Here, we may find tasks as dictation and dictocom, grammatical transformation task, picture task, vocabulary assessment task, ordering task, and short answer and sentence completion task. Finally, we have some issues in assessing responsive and extensive writing. Responsive writing creates the opportunity for test takers to offer an array of possible creative responses within a pedagogical or assessment framework. Test takers are responding to a prompt or an assignment. Free from the strict control of intensive writing, learners can exercise a number of options in choosing vocabulary, grammar, and discourse, but with some constraints and conditions. Criteria now begin to include the discourse and rhetorical conventions of paragraph structure and of connecting two or three such paragraphs in text of limited lengths. The learner is responsible for accomplishing a purpose in writing, for developing a sequence of connected ideas, and for empathizing with the audience. Genders of text that are typically addressed here are short reports, responses to readings of an article or story, summaries of articles or stories, brief narratives or descriptions, and interpretations of graphs, tables, and charts. Authenticity. Authenticity is a trait that is given special attention. If test takers are being asked to perform a task, its pace and content validity need to be assured in order to bring out the best of the writer. A good deal of writing performance in academic context is constrained by pedagogical necessities of establishing the basic building blocks of writing. Scoring is the thorniest issue at these final two stages of writing. With so many options available to a learner, each evaluation by a test administrator needs to be finely attuned, not just to how the writer strings words together, but also to what the writer is saying. The quality of writing becomes as important, if not more important, than all the nuts and bolts that hold it together. Finally, time. As we know, time is a constraint since in the real life, we don't find situations where we have to write essays in such short periods of time. The real thing or the reality is that inside school, inside classrooms, we use drafts, and before having a final product, we at least have two previous drafts. Designing assessment task responsive and intensive writing, paraphrasing and answer paragraph construction. Paraphrasing. One of the most difficult concepts for second language learners to grasp is paraphrasing. The initial step in teaching paraphrasing is to ensure that learners understand the importance of paraphrasing, to say something in one's own words, to avoid plagiarizing, to offer some variety in expression. Guided questions and guided answers. This is what learners may see. For example, where did the story take place? Here, we are asking for a setting. Who are the people in the story? Here, the learner will give a character. What happened first? What happened then? Here's the sequence of events. Afterwards, the writer may also have to give reasons, causes, opinions, the climax, and an evaluation. This again is a guided question and answer. Paragraph construction and task. Here we find the topic sentence writing, topic development within a paragraph, development of main and supporting ideas across paragraphs. Test of written English. While time-impromptu tests suffer from a lack of authenticity and put test takers into an artificially time-constrained context, they nevertheless offer interesting and relevant information for an important but narrow range of administrative purposes. Once again, we don't consider, or we shouldn't consider, for academic purposes this kind of written test, since they put the learners in a situation where they will never face in a real life. We don't commonly write essays in 30 minutes. Now, we got to scoring methods for responsive and extensive writing. Here, we may use holistic scoring, primary trait scoring, and analytic scoring. Holistic scoring, remember that it focuses on the paper or on the text as a whole. It gives a grade as a whole. Primary trait. Here, the grade is basically focused on the function of the paper. That is, for example, see if the paper asks to persuade and the student persuades on the writing task, then it is considered that it is meeting the needs. Finally, the analytic scoring is where it considers different paper in different parts as an introduction, a development, and a conclusion. And for each part of the paper, there is a score. Inside the score or within the score, there are 3 or 4 more scores. Now, we may now assess initial stages of the process of composing. We gotta focus here our efforts primarily on meaning, main idea, and organization. Comment on the introductory paragraph. Make general comments about the clarity of the main idea and logic or appropriateness of the organization. As a rule of thumb, ignore minor grammatical and lexical errors. Indicate what appear to be major errors, but allow the writer to make corrections. Do not rewrite questionable, ungrammatical, or awkward sentences. Rather, prove with a question about meaning. Comment on features that appear to be irrelevant on the topic. Now remember, this is what we should do or how we should assess in initial stages of the process of composing. Next, we have the way we should assess later stages or a second stage of the process in composing. First, we should comment on the specific clarity and strength of all main ideas, supporting ideas, and on argument and logic. Secondly, we should call attention to minor grammatical and mechanical errors, but direct to the writer to self-correct. Remember, we didn't do this in the first stage, but here it's important to do it. Comment on any further word choices and expressions that may not be awkward, but are not as clear as direct as they could be. Point out any problems with cohesive devices within across paragraphs. If appropriate, comment on documentation, citation of sources, evidence, and other support. Finally, comment on adequacy and the strength of the conclusion. Well, this is the end of our activity about assessing writing. Thank you.